What's going on, guys? Pixoleated back at it again with another review. Today we are reviewing the infamous commotion causing, resale price gouging, homeless guy belt whipping Adidas x Bape NMD collab. Not only are they one of the most sought after Adidas collab from 2016, they were also notoriously impossible to get and released in limited quantities to literally a handful of stores. They released online on Adidas US, Canadian, and possibly other regional Adidas websites only, retailed for a price of $150 and 190 Canadian on November 26th and released on Bape's website a few days later if I recall correctly. They also released in a handful of Adidas flagship stores, one in New York and one in Toronto. The one in New York and the one in Toronto are the two I'm aware of. The Vancouver, BC release was cancelled because of a homeless guy whipping his belt at the kids. Also probably because of the general restlessness among the crowd and the size of the crowd probably. They then re-released on the Adidas UK site just a few days ago on January 12th. I have no knowledge as to why the huge release gap. Maybe Adidas UK has a lot of patience, or we're hoping hype would die down. Yeah, right. A brief history and insight into Bape is originally a Japanese brand founded by a man named Nigo in 1993. It has since sold approximately 90% of its shares to a Hong Kong fashion company, so whether it's still Japanese is really up for grabs. If you know anything about Nigo, you'll know that he's often associated with Pharrell Williams in helping him start his own clothing brand known as BBC or Billionaire Boys Club, and you can really attribute Bape going big and mainstream in the hip-hop scene due to these two fellas collaborating. Nigo first sold Bape in 1993 in a store called Nowhere in Harajuku, opened with his friend Jun Takahashi, which if you've heard of the brand Undercover, you'll almost always see his name under the brand name because he's the founder and designer of Undercover. Bape stands for A Bathing Ape, but little mentioned fact is the brand's actual full name is A Bathing Ape in Lukewarm Water. Yes, it's a mouthful, but that mouthful has two meanings. The first being a reference to the Planet of the Apes, the second being a reference to the Japanese method of bathing in water that has gotten lukewarm over time. It's considered an indulgence or a luxury to bathe like this since you need a lot of free time to wait for something to get warm, and a lot of free time is only allowed to those who have the money and can afford not to have to work all the time. This is similar to the concept of a grand piano. It's unnecessarily large and expensive and takes time to learn, which means you have to be rich enough to 1, afford it, 2, to have a large empty space to put it, 3, the free time to learn to play it. Learning to play the grand piano was inherently considered a useless skill in the past as it had no practical purpose in moving society forward, like growing and harvesting food on a farm did or working at a factory plant did, especially if it's not your career or profession. Basically, it takes a lighthearted jab at the market that actually buys Bape, as Bape was always sold in limited quantities and high prices to the luxury consumer who's willing to shell out for them. Now you might be asking, Pix, you just said these were super limited and impossible to get. How did you get your hands on a pair? Well, that's a good question. Let me tell you, I don't know what was going on the Canadian website when they initially dropped, but the sneakers sold out almost immediately. I believe there were around 200 pairs of Bape NMD on Adidas.ca in total, if I recall correctly, but it has been a while, so take that with a grain of salt. I took the L and was ready to go on about my day as I had to get things done, but I was following Kicksdeal Canada's tweets. If you know KDC or Kicksdeals Canada on Twitter, if you don't, go check them out. If you're in Canada, if you're not, please leave it to the Canadians. And he didn't believe they were sold out just yet, so with the little to no hope that I had, I decided to go about my day because I had some things to get done, but a friend of mine decided to keep trying. Eventually some stock must have freed up, he was able to get them in cart, and he passed them on to me. God bless his delicate, oh so delicate soul. Now I don't know if this was intentional or Adidas.ca IT team just had a bad day, as they do so often, but whatever it was, it worked in my favor, and to that I say keep on blundering, Adidas.ca IT team, as long as it works in my favor. Onto the shoe. The Bape NMD is a regular NMD R1 silhouette, not reworked in any way unlike the Pharrell NMDs or the NMD SR1s, thank God. It features the typical NMD midsole with the familiar 2 Lego blocks on the lateral side and on the heel of the medial side, the rear Lego blocks being a darker shade of green while the front Lego block is a bright shade of green. Both are the two primary shades of green you'll see predominantly across the shoe. The upper is doused in the iconic green Bape Camo with beige and white accents, such as the tape going around the middle of the upper to create the illusion of a toe box, and the heel counter on the back with the Adidas trefoil logo is a Werther's original beige as well. The 3 stripes along the sides of the shoe, the lace eyelets, and the laces are all white, which adds a much needed contrast to the all camo upper. The white touches are my favorite part of the shoe. I'm not a white supremacist or anything, but without them I feel like the shoe would be about 3 to 4 points uglier on the aesthetic scale in my opinion. It just adds that punch to that all camo upper that it needs. The upper itself is not a prime knit material, which is regarded as the highest quality for the NMD. However, it's not mesh either, which is a common misconception that most people, and I've touched on this in the NMD Offspring video as well, most people have this misconception that when an NMD isn't prime knit, they just pass it off as mesh. It's actually a nylon upper, but I feel like it's finished differently than most nylon as it has a satin-like sheen on top of it and feels much more sturdy than other nylon layers camo-laden shoes that I've tried, such as the undefeated Huarache. The material feels light and sturdy, which I like a lot because although Prime Knit is light, relatively sturdy, and more breathable, it's much thinner and is prone to outlining your toes, which isn't a good look on shoes in my opinion. It also means that your foot is less protected from outside obstacles. For example, if someone steps on your Prime Knit NMDs, it's basically like stepping on your foot. Good luck to your toes with those 9-inch heels trampling over you in the club. Side note, I do not condone wearing Prime Knit NMDs or Bape NMDs for that matter to the club to test out whether such acts of toe crushery will actually take place. Here you see the Bape Shark Camo bandana that I plan on wearing with these shoes. Obviously you don't see the upper half of my body, so I decided to wrap it around my calf for you to get a better look. I said in my top 5 video that wearing bright all camo pieces is something I've kind of strayed away from as I grow older, but accessorizing in smaller pieces like these shoes and the bandana are a little more acceptable and digestible for me. There's no hypebeast lacing this go around because I didn't really feel like it was necessary with these. They're hella loud and they look beautiful on feet as it is, so I thought I'd stay true to the look of the shoe. Oh, who am I kidding? It was cold as when I filmed this, and I wasn't about to freeze my toes off like I did for the kith for some overexposed super white hypebeast laces. Another thing I really like about the shoe is the green outsole. Most NMD outsoles are either black or white, aside from the Nice Cakes and Collab NMDs that had the beautiful gum sole and probably a handful of XR1s, but that dark green sole just popped and went seamlessly with the rest of the shoe. I feel like any colored outsole on an NMD just hits really well. Probably why Adidas is holding out on colored outsoles, just because they don't want to overdo a good thing, right? Who knows? That's just speculation from me. On to the question we're all waiting to be answered. Are these a must-have? And coming from me, this answer is definitely going to surprise you, but the answer in my personal opinion is no. The fact is, not everyone is into the NMD as they are into the Ultra Boost. It's not nearly as comfortable and the sizing is a little over the place, although these do run true to size. And if you're not a fan of Bape, there really is no reason to have these in your collection unless you like the way they look. But the Duck Camo XR1s are a collab-free equivalent, are a little more wearable than these since they're not as vibrant or loud, and are much more affordable in the aftermarket. Camo is also a hit or miss for some people, so if you're one of those people that doesn't enjoy camo, don't get these obviously. Aside from that, it's really just all hype. If I wasn't a fan of Bape, I would not hesitate to sell these, because giving up $1,000+ in order to keep something you don't like just because of the hype, that's just a bad investment at that point. If you are a collab fiend, Bape fan, and NMD Adidas Boost lover though, these shoes are for you. Feel free to beat the out of them. They're an iconic shoe, possibly the most sought after collab of 2016, and I'm lucky AF to have these in my collection. I think the best way to style camo shoes is with blue jeans, especially with a taper for NMDs, which is why you see me wearing blue H&M denim zipper pants. Even though the fit isn't perfect, it's what I had at the time. Forgot to show the whole outfit because it was super cold and my hands were about to fall off. With that being said, that's the end of my review. If you took something away from this video and review, please make sure to help me with a like. Please make sure to subscribe for more content such as this. And please make sure to leave a comment letting me know what you thought about the shoes. If you got a pair, if you didn't, why and why not. I'm really interested to hear about your release experiences. With that being said, have a good day. Picsoleated, out.